What is your role in SVS?
My title is the advisor. Since SVS is a student organization, it needs an advisor, and so I serve as the advisor. But it's a lot more than just advising. That's my official title. But I do a lot of coordination. I pretty much direct the undergraduate students, student leaders, and make connections with the nonprofit agencies in town where we send the students to go volunteer and develop connections with them and relationships and just a variety of different things. So technically the term is advisor, but it's a lot more multifaceted than just being an advisor and going to a meeting every once in a while.
How effective do you think you are in the Muncie community, SVS in general?
For SVS specifically, if we were just looking at the students that utilize us and our services, I think we are very effective at making an impact in the Muncie community. Because of those relationships that I've been able to build with the nonprofit agencies, many of them have said, we could not do what we do without the students that you send our way. Yeah. We're able to serve the amount of people that we serve because your students are coming here and helping us out, and we would not be able to do that if they were not here. Yeah. So they're telling me that on a pretty regular basis. Yeah. And those are just the stories I hear. I think that for the most part, to do this kind of work, you have to believe that they're making a difference. The students are making a difference. And the students are telling me stories, too, about the impact that they feel like they're having, too. So I think we are making a huge impact.
Are students that involved in SVS, would you consider them more well-rounded students?
Students such as Julian and the other program coordinators who they are making a conscious decision to be involved, to continue giving back to the community. They're not doing it for any other reason than they absolutely love it. They absolutely need to feel like they're doing something positive with their time here, which I think, in my personal opinion, I feel like that separates them out a little bit different. They're not so self-absorbed in wanting what they want and getting the degrees so they can go out and find a good job and make a lot of money. That's not what their focus is. Their focus while they're here is, yes, they want their degree and they want their friends and they want to have a good time, but they also want to give back. And that's such a part of who they are and how they identify themselves. I think that makes them a little bit unique. Does that make them more well-rounded? I don't know that it necessarily does. Yeah. Because in a lot of ways, they can be all about serving others and all about making a difference. But, not all of them are solid academically. Not all of them are involved in anything else other than SVS. Yeah. So I wouldn't necessarily say that they're more well-rounded. I think that they just have a different, I would say they have a different outlook. They're not so, it's not all about them.
Are there any changes that you notice from students after they have done some SVS activities?
Yeah, it's funny. I'd love to be able to say that every student that walks in our doors is there because they want to be there and they want to give back and they're all excited about it, and that just really isn't reality. A lot of the students that are coming our way because they have to. They're either required for a course, or their student organization is requiring them to do it, or they want to be Greek and they need to get that part done so they can, become Greek, or they've gotten in trouble judicially and need to do some service judicially for judicial purposes. So they don't always come our way with the most positive of attitudes. But the most satisfying moments are when a student will say, this is not what I wanted to do. This is the last thing in the world I wanted to do, but I am so glad I did it because it really ended up being much more than I ever thought about that it would be. And I'm so glad I was made to do this because this really was so worth my time, and I hope to be, not that, even if they say, I wish I had more time to be able to continue this, so I know they're not coming back to us, at least I know that the opportunity we provided for them and the work that I've done with the agencies so they would provide a good opportunity for them on site and keep them engaged on site actually had the kind of impact on them that we wanted it to have. Definitely. So, not every student walks away feeling good about their experiences, Some of them will walk away and never do another hour of community service in their lifetime, and that's their choice, and so we didn't hit them. But I think most of the students walk away going, this was good and I'm glad I did it.
Why did you get involved in SVS, and how did you get involved?
When I started my career working in student affairs, it was through the housing. I was a hall director. And I thought I was going to be in housing forever because I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed living in the residence halls and everything that happened within those four walls. And you could do some programming in the halls that you couldn't do elsewhere on campus because, you know, they live there and they can't get away from it. So, you know, you want to put a controversial bulletin board on to spark some conversation, you can do that, you know, because they're going to walk by that place every day. So so I do miss that part in part, but living in where you work was a little too rough. So so I left housing and took a job here at Ball State, working with the Freshman Connections program, believe it or not. And that was on a grant period, and so the grant ended and I was asked to stick around and work with the Excellence in Leadership program, which I loved doing that for a few years, but I felt like I had taken that as far as I could take it, and I was just, you know, just didn't feel like I was doing much more with it. And through some changes in the office and some reorganization, they offered me to work with SVS. And so I was ready for another challenge, so I took that on and have never regretted it since. It was probably the best move of my professional career, to be really honest with you. I got a lot of satisfaction in the other roles that I played, but there's something about working with these students that really is, again, because they're just a little different breed, and so they inspire me every day. And I can't say that students always inspire me, but these students certainly do. So I feel very lucky to be able to work with SVS in the capacity that I do.
Did you do anything like this when you were in college or younger? Or?
You know, I would love to say yes, I did. No. So no, I really didn't. I did some work when I was young. You know, I was really a part of the March of Dimes and doing some of that stuff. But what I did was mostly philanthropy work, which I thought was service, but which a lot of people do. But so I did that, and you know, I would go door to door and you know, ask for donations for the March of Dimes, and you know, I did the walkathons and things along those lines. But as far as getting back and doing service, no, I didn't really have a whole lot of experience with that. Now, when I was a hall director, and I was a hall director at Illinois State University, we were required every year. Each hall staff was required every year to do a service project. And so the first year I had to do that. I was like, really? Why? Why is this necessary? Like, it just couldn't. There was a disconnect there. Like, why should we do this? But the first year we went, I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. I understand why we have to do this. And I loved it, and I really enjoyed it. And so every year that it would come up, you know, the students would grumble. I'd be like, no, this is going to be so worth it. You know, you're going to love it. And they did every year, but it was just one of those, you know, it's time to do the service project again. Their attitude was, but I really enjoyed it. So that was about the extent of it. So do I feel like it's a part of my life that somehow was lacking, that I should have been doing more? Absolutely, you know, absolutely. I don't have kids of my own, but I do have a niece and a nephew, and I'm constantly talking to them about giving back and helping others who can't help themselves and who are not as fortunate as they are. So, so they know it's important.
Have you ever had to remove any individual because they weren't doing their job properly?
Pops up every once in a while. It's interesting because normally I let the individual agency determine that. You know, I let the agency make that call. I want to be kept in the loop as far as what's going on. So if there's anything that I need to follow up on with them about, I want to follow up with them. And I don't know that the agency representatives have the skills to challenge them to really turn that situation into more of a learning outcome. You know, we're a higher ed institution, so I want every experience that students have to have some sort of an educational component to it. So every once in a while there'll be a problem volunteer, and I'll get a call, and the agency will say, you know, I'm going to ask that volunteer not to return. And I'm like, okay, you know, write down the details. And I'll have a follow-up conversation with them. So I pull them in here if I can, and talk about it again with them and say, okay, now let's talk about this. Let's learn something from this. So what did you do wrong? What are you gonna, you know, let's put this into a real life context of what you did wrong. In a working environment, you can't be like this, you know. And so just trying to turn it around for them so they walk away having learned something from it, and hopefully they won't make the same mistake twice. So. So yeah, it happens not often, not even once a semester. Usually the students, when they're out there, they do what they need to do. You know, they watch their P's and Q's and they act the way they should, but every once in a while somebody will do something a little inappropriate.
Do you think most of your SVS students, do you think they interact well in the Muncie community, or is that something that's kind of gradual?
I think it depends on the agency.
Yeah.
I think there are certain agencies that are really good at wrapping these volunteers up and saying, you are now a part of us, and here, let me tell you everything about us and get you engaged and keep you busy the whole time. They're really much better at that than others. There are some agencies where the volunteers come in and they get the crap jobs, and they're not given any kind of background information about what they're doing and why this is important and that kind of thing. So I think it's agency dependent on whether or not they mesh well. Part of that is on the agency. Part of that's on the students too. And so there's a lot of times students don't feel comfortable asking questions and comfortable asking for something more engaging to do, something more significant to do. I think that students ultimately want to feel like at the end of that experience, at the end of that day, and at the end of the semester when it's all over, that they made a difference. That's what they want. They just want to feel like they made a difference. And if they don't feel like they made a difference, then their satisfaction level is pretty low, as it would be for anybody, I think. But that's really all they want. They just want to feel like they made a difference. But they sometimes won't feel that way unless you take that. Sometimes it's only 2 minutes out of your time to say, okay, what you did today, that's going to help X number of people. Because you did that for me today, I was able to go and do this and this and this that I wouldn't have been able to get to. So, and just something as simple as that to help students somehow quantify it in their own head about what they did and the impact that's going to have on that agency or on the people that are served by that agency is so critical, and not everybody does a really good job at that.
Are the majority of the SVS participants from a certain major, or is it pretty...
It's across the board, believe it or not. I think we get a lot of education majors, absolutely. Elementary education as a department has a 50-hour requirement for all LED 100 majors. So anybody who is going to be an LED major is going to walk through our doors eventually. And so we get a lot of education majors. We get a lot of health science majors. They also have a couple of classes that require service. We get a lot of nursing majors because they have to be out there getting some hands-on experience, so they usually go to the hospital or some of the other health clinics in town. So we get a lot of nursing majors. But we also get a lot of history majors, a lot of political science majors, and just across the board. So I don't, we probably don't get a whole lot of architecture majors, but then again, they don't get out of the architecture building most of the time. So we probably don't get a whole lot of architecture majors, but I think, we have math majors, we've got just about every major you can spout off. One of our program coordinators is an art major and spends most of her time in the ceramic studio, and she's extremely talented. But when she's not there, she's here. So yeah, it's kind of across the board. But I would say that I don't have any stats to be able to back this up. But probably education majors are going to be the number one.
Yeah. Probably
more education than any other major, but then again, they want to get out there and work with kids.
Is there a certain organization that you guys help out the most, or is that pretty much across the board too?
Pretty much across the board. It depends on the semester. Sometimes, like this is a kind of a weird semester where some programs that don't fill up are full, and people are looking to get into those programs. And then some programs that you could normally count on that would be full aren't. So it kind of depends. But our coordinated programs are still the programs that are the most popular. And although we have more independent volunteers than we do coordinated volunteers, those coordinated programs are still, for the most part, ones where they look at first. But we have a stronger relationship with the agencies that have a coordinated program. In part because they know exactly the day and time when our volunteers are coming our way. So it's a little bit more structured. It's structured on our end and for our students. It's also structured on their end. So they know, okay, Monday I've got a coordinated program, so volunteers are coming to me every Monday. They can create things for them to do on Monday because they know that they're going to have volunteers on Monday. Independent volunteers, they arrange the days and times that they're going to go to a particular agency, but so it works out great for the student schedules when students don't have a set schedule if they're working, and that working schedule is always changing. So an independent program works great for them, but that doesn't really let the agency know when those volunteers are coming. And so they may not be quite as prepared for those independent volunteers as they are for the coordinated volunteers, if that makes sense. So I think that, so we've got a stronger relationship with the coordinated agencies. And because we've got a stronger relationship with them, I would say that we are sending volunteers to them on a regular basis, a much more regular basis than we are some of the agencies where we don't have a coordinated program. Because sometimes we get volunteers to go there and sometimes we don't. Coordinated programs, there are going to be people there. We're going to make sure of that.
Yeah.
You know, but the independent is kind of hit. Ultimately, SVS wants to be the first thing students think of when they think of community service.
Yeah.
I want SVS to pop in their head. I'm not sure that happens for the majority of the students on campus. But that's ultimately what I want. I want us to be the first thing that pops into people's head when they community service. Oh, SVS, that's where you need to go. Place over 2,000 students in the curriculum or in the community every year, but you know, there's 18,000 students on campus, so we're not reaching a lot of them.
Yeah.
And we just need to figure out a way to get our name back out there. So any little thing that we can do to, you know, educate students a little bit about who we are and what we can do, the better. So thank you for choosing us.